All right. Good morning, everyone. It's Tim Watson here with Meet the Masters. I am joined today by my friend Jason Church. Master Church, how are you doing, sir?
Doing great. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. How's things in Louisiana right now?
Things are good. It's actually a little chilly here. We're down to 70 degrees.
70 degrees. We had like this mild week and it was amazing. And then just like that, it turned on us and it's been cold. And like yesterday we had these crazy rainstorms. So yeah, I'm envious of the 70-degree weather. What's the typical temperature right now down there?
It ranges. It tends to get stay pretty warm, but if it does get mild down here, all the way down here in New Orleans, it typically bounces back within a couple days. Never stays too cold for too long, which is different than from up north.
Yes, yes, very different from everywhere. Because before you were in Maryland or Delaware, you lived in Michigan, right?
Yep, born in Michigan.
Yeah, so very, very different than that. How's the studio going?
The studio is going pretty well. Obviously we had our challenges in the beginning of the year for a few months, and we managed to make it through there. Back on the upswing at this point, and just trying to get everything back on track.
How, as far as like bringing people into the studio, is your lobby open? Are you just bringing students in, or?
So my lobby is open. We recommend that people, stay outside. Most people choose to. If they do come in, they wear masks. We have a relatively small lobby. I have some benches against the outside edges, and I have a couple chairs. I'll put 3 or 4 chairs out in the middle of the lobby. And, if there's no space to sit down, people stand outside or go sit in their car. I have big windows so they can see right in through, and limited, but it's pretty good with that. Everybody else is doing a really good job of doing that. We're limiting the classes to about 15 people per class at most. We don't always fill up, but just trying to keep everybody spread out.
Gotcha. I was joking with Master Kaluzny today, saying that we'll get some of those stand heaters because we have pretty big windows too, to let people stand outside. I was going to say thanks to everyone for watching. We got some people saying hi. Yoshi from Region 5, Master Marco. Lindsay, she's a cold Great Britain, 53 degrees here. Willie Richardson also says hello. Kelly Ward from Region 4 says hello. Good morning from Texas. So she's got up early to watch. Awesome. So as far as martial arts, I know martial arts has pretty much been a part of your life for most of your life. So if you could just talk to us about how martial arts came into your life, and how your journey started, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah, no, I started in the summer right after I turned 10. I was 10 years old when I started. 36 now. So I've been doing it for quite a bit of time. Basically, I had been away visiting my grandparents in Michigan, and for 2 weeks, and I came back, and me and my little brother Roger, we always playing around, messing around, and he like kicked me and punched me, and I was like, ow, right? And my brother made some funny comment like, oh, did he say Tia when he did it? And I was like, I don't even know what that means, but okay, right? And they were keeping it a secret from me. They were starting me in karate, and I didn't know it until like a couple days after visiting. We're driving. My mom wouldn't tell me where we're going, and she tells me we're going to a private school. I just start getting upset. I'm like, what about my friends? What am I doing? And we pull up to a karate school, and then we go in, and she's like, oh, we'll put you in a karate school. I was doing a private lesson. I misunderstood what the deal was, and I was doing a private lesson to get started with James Harrington. We enrolled in the school. I wound up being the 9th student at the KMI 3 in Newark, Delaware, and started karate at that point and fell in love with it ever since. It was just funny because, it didn't dawn on me until years later, even like thinking back to that story, like, we say Tia, with Master Godwin, and I do that in my studio too. People always ask me, and I'm like, well, that's what I grew up with. So that's what we do in my studio. Anyway, but yeah, no, I got started. My mom put me in that school because we grew up as a family watching Walker, Texas Ranger every Saturday night, and big Chuck Norris fans, and found out that not only did he get his black belt from Grandmaster Shin, but also that Master Gowan had met him, and there was a picture in the lobby of them shaking hands, and I'm like, oh, well, I met him. It was so cool. After starting karate, like I didn't even know karate at the time, but every time we watch him, we're like, oh, I can do that kick. It was just fun to watch him do like his signature spinning back kick and be like, that's my kick, right? Or I can do that kick, So that's cool. So that's how I got started in karate, and I love doing it and everything. But probably around brown belt is when I started to, they let me like start to not help. I thought I was helping teach. Really, I was just there to hold the target and things like that. But that's how we get started. And when they started letting me do that, I was like, this is what I want to do forever. I'm going to be a karate instructor. So it worked.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. When was the first time you saw? So Master Godwin has that Walker Texas Ranger cast and crew jacket that he used to wear all the time. Did you see that as a kid?
I mean, yeah, it's just one of those things where I'm like, yeah, I mean, honestly, like based off of that, as a kid, not knowing any better, I thought he was like best friends, right? It's like one day I'm going to meet Chuck Norris. They actually did some type of community program where they're getting martial arts schools to do some community activity. I don't really remember what it was. I participated in it at the time. I was trying to get my name put in a ballot, and I think somebody actually from Korean Martial Arts Institute wound up being on the show. So the idea was you got to go in the show for a little cameo if you won this thing. So I don't remember the details. I remember that's what I heard through the grapevine was somebody from Kenya who actually got to go in the show. I'm not sure if that's true, but I was like, I'm going to be on Walker one day.
That's great. Yeah. For those of you who don't know, so Jason and I came from the same school originally, and it's funny, I had Master May Broda a couple weeks ago, and then I had you. So coming up, when I first started, there's basically two people that I watched and modeled and took classes from. It was Master May Broda and it was you. And, I still remember you were probably, I started in 2001. So you were pretty young at that point.
17.
17, yeah. And I would just marvel because with Master May Broda, you would do kicks and drills and sparring drills, and you would do that. But then when I saw you taking class or teaching class, I know we do jump kicks and break falls and dive rolls. And so, there was a nice balance. Well, I don't know if that's balance. There was a nice balance for me as someone who's starting, I was 21, I'd be like, oh, Master Church, we get to do crazy stuff. And then, Master Broda, it's like, oh, we get to do, we get to work on our kicks, which is obviously good as well. But, obviously being younger, you probably gravitated towards those jump kicks, but who got you into doing like dive rolls and jump kicks and crazy stuff like that?
I mean, so I had a couple different instructors coming up through the ranks. We had, I started with James Harrington, then there's Jennifer Turner. She really helped me with the kicking and stuff. She was there with Master McBroda. I think he went down to Middletown for a while. He went to a different grad school. When he came back, Mark Carr before Jennifer Turner and Master McBroda. And then we had, when he came back, really I got my love of kicking and stuff from him. I practiced the jumps and stuff because as a young guy, I had a couple friends and I'm a pretty competitive person in a positive way, but I'm pretty competitive. And so I see people do stuff. And I had my friend, Saka Hudson, and he short guy, used to be able to do like backflips and all sorts of fancy stuff. And I was like, I'm going to be able to do that. Not because I want to be better. I just was like, if he can do it, I can do it. And worked really hard with stuff like that. And it's funny. It was all kind of a personal growth thing. I was like, I just wanted to be better. I always like people to have a attitude of continuous growth, right? And so you always got to get better at something, one way or another. And so what I really prided myself on was my ability to jump. And so I'd always practice to make it better and better. I had a chain in the karate school. And Master Murder used to hate that I would just jump up and kick the chain all the time. And when I could consistently do it well with precision and height, I'd move it up and just to bug him.
That's funny. I remember that as soon as you said that, I remember there was a chain they used to hang the heavy bag from. And
Yep.
yeah, we used to do that all the time.
I'll jump up kick because I wanted to jump as high as I could. And yeah, I actually wound up hurting myself doing a double jump front kick. I'm pretty sure you were there. I know Pat Priest was there and everything. We're doing like a high jumping thing and ripping my shoulder out of the socket of all things in the middle of a kick. And so,
Well, you know, I used to remember we would have those big spectaculars. And one of the things that was always the most amazing part of was you doing the 2 feet together jump front kick on a board, probably 10 feet high, like just jumping straight up.
sure, we'll go with 10. No, it's probably more like 6, but no, I always had somebody on a
10.
we had people on chairs. That was like one of my signature things. Stand somebody on a chair, hold the board up and jump kick, back when I was young and dumb.
But that was always super impressive. And I would always try to emulate that. I never got quite as high as you, but you know. So you talked about at Brown Belt, you started to help out with class.
Mm-hmm.
When did you actually start, you know, someone was like, okay, Jason, you're going to take this class and you're going to teach this class. Do you remember a time when that happened?
So I don't really remember a specific time like that. You know, I started helping and I was a karate, karate rat instead of a mall rat. You know, I was always at the karate school 4 days a week minimum. Even when I had other things going on in my life, you know, marching band, wrestling, some things like that. I was always at the karate school. I'd leave from those practices and go to karate for as much as I could. You know, go to the karate school and then come back for football games to play, you know, instruments and stuff. So I was at the karate school at least 4 times a week. And I would stay through the classes, probably much to my instructor's chagrin. You know, they probably were annoyed at how much I was there, but they wound up utilizing me and, you know, holding targets, things like that. I distinctly remember when I moved from a position of like being a helper, right, a SWAT member. We had the STAR team, student team. It was I can't remember the acronym, but there was STAR first, and then at Red Belt, we started the SWAT team, the Special Attitude team. And at the time, that leadership team was a little different. It was more demonstration oriented. We were the people who got together, participated, put together, and performed in demonstrations. But then the next step up from there was like, you know, we got to help with classes, learn to be leaders, and then. I do distinctly remember when I got asked to be an assistant instructor. The instructors had the ability to wear a blue uniform top. And I got my blue uniform top at the same exact time as your wife. We became assistant instructors at the same time. I think hers was a little more official since she's, you know, a little older than me and everything, but it was such a big pride for me. I was like, I can teach now. And it was at that moment that I really officially took it seriously. Like I was already serious about it. I was there all the time, but I was like, oh man, I'm now, I got the blue uniform. I need to do that. So it was funny. Master McBroda was teaching and this was my first time in. And I told him, I was like, actually, I don't want to help. I want to sit down and write it. So I took pages and pages of notes and watched everything he did and watched how he taught and how he interacted with the students, you know, engaged the parents and things like that. And I kind of modeled a lot of my teaching. I still do model all my teaching off of him, you know, my enthusiasm and everything. At one point, our studio was so big that we had 2 classes going on at once. Often we had 2 classes, and it would just be the greatest experience to have 2 classes that were like competing for, you know, energy. You know, he'd be trying to make his group louder and more exciting, and we'd be doing this. I'd be doing the same thing to my group, and it was just really engaging. So, but yeah, that's how I really got into teaching, was like just helping for a long period of time. And then, you know, they asked me to be an assistant instructor. I got my blue uniform top and really the rest is history. At one point, they asked me to be a part-time instructor. I was part-time for about 2 years. I was 19, I was going to school and I made the decision to stay full-time. I decided to stop going to school for the time being and just focus on being a karate instructor full-time. I was 19 or 20 at the time. I think of 20.
I remember that time. So you said you were a competitive person. when did you start competing or going to tournaments? You remember? Is that early on?
My very first tournament was at the Hockessin Studio in Lantana Square. That karate school, before it moved to where the location it is now, it was in the smaller space. I think there was like a pet store or something next to it, and it was just this small place. I think it was probably a third the size of the New York studio. And I was, I in my mind as the kid and going to this other thing, I just expected all these karate schools to be big because that's what I was used to with Newark. And I went in, I was a green and brown belt, right? So probably it was about a year in, and I'd never been to a tournament. There's no education or experience on what to do. In fact, instructor at the time really like last minute said, "Oh yeah, you had to introduce yourself and all this stuff." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And so I went in and stumbled and everything. I competed consistently in every tournament that was available. Every tournament, we had the Red Rose tournament every January. We had, or the all.
Red Rose, the Bonds Winter Championship.
Yeah, Bonds was January. Red Rose was typically in May or something. Anyway, we had all these, a lot of opportunities to compete through World Tungsten Schools, open tournaments. I traveled to, Atlantic City, Baltimore, and did some, different open tournaments and everything. And I didn't win any medal ever until I was in 2000. So I was about 6 years in. I competed in every tournament and never won anything. And
really?
Yeah, the reason that I continue to do so was I just love the experience of it. I would go spend all day with my karate people. That was all I wanted to do was be with karate people. It was the community of people that I could be with and be part of. And watching my friends compete. Eventually, students and people, and score keep as I got older. Then start judging. It was always just a really fun experience. And yeah, I remember I won for the first time. I got second place in sparring at the East Coast something or other. Anyway, it was really cool. And from there on, I was pretty successful for many years competing.
So you were a black belt at that point, right?
I was. I think I had just gotten my second degree.
Okay. So that says a lot for perseverance. Like, I guess, like you said, you were going for the experience, but you still go and with the hopes of getting a medal and.
Sure. I mean, I was always like, yeah, this is going to be the time, and then it was not the time. But no, I mean, I like tournaments because, I mean, especially with that experience, it was never about the medal. It wasn't about what I would place. It was about seeing where I was and how I could become better. So the goal, that continuous growth, it was just to get better eventually, because I knew if these people could, I could too, right? And I mean, that's what my instructors always told me. Mr. Harrington, or Carr, all the, Master May, they were always talking about getting better and better. Just put the work in and you'll get there eventually. And, some people move faster along that continuum than others. And
no, but I think it's a great lesson. And I say that to people all the time. It's not the medals or not winning. It's the time you put in to get ready, for sure.
It sounds really cliche, except when you go 6 years without winning anything, keep going. Then it's
yeah. No, and I know people that have given up after 2 or 3 times of competing. So, yeah. Especially as a kid, like that's commendable.
I've had kids get third place and be like, oh, that's not good enough, and I'm not competing anymore. It's like, yeah. There's people leaving here who didn't get anything, and we work on sportsmanship and have conversations like that. So
yeah, absolutely. A couple more people saying hello. Master Benelli from Region 23 says hello. Kelly Ward says, I've missed going to tournaments this year. Can't wait till we start having them again. I wholeheartedly agree. I'd seen virtual tournaments. I know Region 9 just did a tournament over the weekend that was virtual. That seemed to go well. Still, it's just not the same. Like you said, the camaraderie at World Tungsten events is, it's second to none. I remember one of the first, I think the first and only time you and I competed against each other. I was I had just gotten a third degree at regionals.
I remember that.
After. What's that?
I said, I remember that.
Yeah, and it was the one time that Erin hasn't been to a regionals, and I called her afterwards, and she's like, how'd you do?" I was like, "Well, I got first in sparring." She's like, I was like, "I beat George Solona, Master Setianto, and Jason Church," and she's like, "No, you didn't." I was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
thanks for the vote of confidence." I was like, "I was just my night. It just happened, you know."
So that was one of my last times. I think that might have even been my last time competing. And I remember sparring you, and we hadn't sparred very much because I had been in Trenton, New Jersey for a few years at that point.
Right.
You know, we hadn't been together sparring. I remember sparring you, and you know, you just kick like a horse. Like you're super strong, super fast, and I was like, boom! I was like, all right. So that's awesome.
Nice. Yeah. So I think that's a good segue. You go from Newark. You went from the Newark KMI straight to the Shin, right? Godwin Shin, or was there
Yeah.
a stop in between?
Nope. So I was at the New York studio, you know, I was the ninth person when it first started, all the way up through 2005. It was March 2005. I transitioned over to Godwin Shin up in Trenton, New Jersey with Master Roman. And I was there until 2010 when I made the move back to Newark. So I was the program director in both places, but so I worked my way up to be a second in command. I was this close, and then we moved over to Shin Karate. Had a great experience up there. You know, continue my growth in a different way, getting out of you know the space, the place that I was in, go to a new place, and not reinventing, but like kind of moving forward and everything. There was talks at one point of open up another studio in Princeton, and the intention was to, you know, get myself in that area, start working with that network of people. At the time, Master Setianto was over in Pendel, which was, you know, a short distance away from Trenton. So we had the idea was to have a small group of studios up there. And then that didn't pan out. And so in 2010, Master Mimbroda purchased Iron Circle and, you know, chose to make the change over there. And they brought me back, and I became chief instructor at Newark from 2010. And in 2013 is when I chose to move down here to New Orleans and start Church's Karate Academy.
Yeah, I was wondering. I couldn't quite remember how long it's been, but wow, 7 years. That's amazing.
7. Time flies, you know. Every year, you know, my timeline numbers pop up, and it's like what the studio looked like when I first built. And when they were building these rooms, I had a locker room and a storage room. And then almost exactly like 5 years later, I tore those same rooms down to create more space for my studio because I needed it. And it's just kind of funny to see pictures of it being built 5 years later, them, you know, being torn down. And just to think of where I was, you know, I'll see classes in December when I had 9 students, right? I had 9 students for the first couple of months. And, you know, I see that, and then, you know, my classes now are more, you know, and it's just kind of a really cool experience, but it just hits you. It's like 7 years. It doesn't even feel like I left, you know?
Right.
But.
Yeah, it's funny. I have the same experience. I've been at Evolution for 4 years, and when I went there were offices, and then we knocked down those offices. Then we knocked down a closet, and then we knocked down another. You know, so I know how you feel as far as it's like, how can we, you know, optimize our space better? And I've seen your school go through those transformations through pictures. I haven't had a chance to come down, but.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
Anybody is welcome at any time to come down. I'm happy to have everybody visit. Yeah, my studio. I had to increase the space because I started running camps. I actually started running camps to make ends meet. I was like, how can I wasn't making enough money, you know, to support the business, and you know, I was doing karate full time, and you know, I had a couple of choices. And so I was like, how can I maximize my time during the day? And I've been running camps for years, you know, through Master Godwin, you know, minimally camps. And I decided, well, I'm going to start running these camps. And I started off with, you know, 5 or 6 people in a camp, and it was not a lot, and it almost doesn't seem worth it. But I put that time and energy and effort into, you know, being there for the people. And I became a consistent camp. You know, people would always call and say, "Hey, you run a camp?" And I was known for just throwing together a camp. If there was one school, the school systems here are really crazy, but there would just be a random school. "Hey, we're having report card conferences." I'm like, "Well, let me put a flyer out of your school. I'll run a camp." Sometimes I get 2 or 3 people. Sometimes I get more. But I became this known for like just being consistent. And took about 2.5 to 3 years, but out of nowhere, my summer camp grew to like 45 kids. And my space at the time, my floor space was only just over, or maybe 1,100 square feet. And to cram 45 kids in here who are running around playing games, splitting them up into groups with age appropriate groups and stuff, I was like, we need more space. And so I made that choice to knock down a couple walls that I thought I needed, and I don't need them.
Sorry, I got infiltrated by a child.
That's all.
Yeah, so I always marvel at your summer camps. I don't know if they were the same this year, but I know you've done like 13 to 14 in a summer.
So again, because of the school system, like my daughter goes to a school here, a French school here, and they have like longer school days, but they have more breaks. And so she's consistently out for a week almost every single month of the school year. They have a fall break in October. They're out for the whole week for Thanksgiving. They're out for 2 weeks plus a day in the holidays. They get off an entire week for Mardi Gras, which is a cool experience down here. And then they get off for a full week at Easter. And then their school ends usually near the end of May. And so like May and September are like the only months during the school year where they don't have, a thing. So I start running camps, and I run separate camps for, all the major holidays, Columbus Day, President's Day, and everything. So I wind up running at least 2 weeks of camp, at least 2 weeks every single month. It just became this big thing that I never meant to be the camp guy. And now everybody's like, "Oh, church is camp." And so, but yeah, I run 13 to 15 weeks of camp every summer. And I ran camps from the last week of May this year. I started a week after I normally would, just because they released our restrictions the week that I would have started, but I wasn't going to start them yet. And then just started doing it. And then as soon as school started going back in session here, virtually first, and then some were in person, some were virtually, I started running distance learning camps, right? I had tables set up, and I had 15 to 20 kids here, and managing multiple kids' schoolwork all day long and getting the work done, and logins and logouts through different school systems. It wasn't like everybody had the same system. I had, with 1 week, I had 18 kids, and I had 12 different schools schedules. And it got really crazy, but I ran those camps up until about 2 weeks ago. The schools finally all went back into full or some type of hybrid, where I no longer need to run camps. So I run camps from the end of May until the end of October. So
do you have any help, or is it just you?
I have an assistant manager. I have a couple counselors, but once the summer ended, all the people I typically hire for counselor positions are in social work or elementary education. So they're either school teachers or in training for that. So they're going back to school and things like that. So I have 2 consistent people that I can call on at any point to help out. So my camps this year were a lot smaller. We kept them small on purpose. Our guidelines, we could have had 30 kids here, but I just didn't feel comfortable in my space, and you can't keep kids from stopping. You can't stop them from touching each other. But we were able to, I limited it to 15 kids, and we were able to kind of keep everybody apart and everything. So I filled up for the most part at my, lowest comfortable space. So
at 7 years, obviously you're starting to see some more mature students and actually get some black belts. How many black belts do you have now? And are you working on those? Do you do the blue top and work on your assistant instructors?
I've restructured my program slightly, and especially right now, I had plans for like a junior camp counselor, a junior counselor program that I was running 4 camps, because I separate my programs out. I have a parkour program, I have a martial arts program, and I have a camp program. So I had plans for that, and that got nixed because like nobody was doing unnecessary camps. So the camps I was doing were adults, and I just didn't want that program to go. We'll get that back on track next year. In martial arts, I still wear a blue uniform as an instructor most of the time, but my students wear white, and my leadership team wears an all red uniform, lower ranks, and I have a higher level rank that we haven't upgraded to yet, but with an all black uniform. It's been good. But no, I have a couple assistants who help. I have about, I think I have 9 black belts right now. And it's pretty cool experience. One just got her 2nd degree. She was actually my 11th student, and she just got her 2nd degree black belt. And a couple other people who are training for 2nd degree right now.
That's great. It's always cool to see kids grow with the school and literally grow up in the school. I had the opportunity to see that in a number of studios.
My 2nd degree, she just turned 18 just a week and a half ago, and when she started, she was 11. She started right after her birthday. I think it might even been like a birthday present. She started in the middle of November, and she was just this little girl. It was really funny. We did an outside event, like a marketing event, and she happened to be walking by. She had just started karate, and she spent 2 hours there passing out flyers and stuff after like 1 or 2 classes. And she like passed flyers out for 2 hours. I was like, thanks. Like I didn't ask her to, but she was just awesome, and she's still here, still going strong. I'm helping her through has to do a speech for her school. They're doing a speech class, and she's like, it has to be a demonstration class, and so I'm working through how to do like a karate demonstration, educational, karate demonstration with this involves a speech. So it's just kind of cool to see her go from, she was shy, even though she helped pass out the flyer and stuff, super quiet and everything. And now she's, wants to do martial arts in front of her whole entire school and teach them about karate. And it's just kind of a cool, really cool experience.
Yeah, that's cool. And obviously personal, since you did the, you essentially did the same thing. You grew up, and then I'm sure you did a school function or two where you went out and had a talk.
Every talent show. My talent is karate.
That's right.
Good or bad.
Yes, I've helped many a kid get ready for karate talent shows or their karate portion of a talent show. Yep. It's always awesome.
Always like, how can I hold board right at the same time? I'm like,
yeah, right. Let's see. Lucinda Oyen says hello. Good morning. Natalie Walker from Great Britain says hello. So I got people from all over the world watching.
Awesome.
No pressure.
Okay. Thanks
so growing up in Region 8, Grandmaster Shin was around a good bit at black belt camps and tournaments. Can you share some stories of maybe some events where you saw Grandmaster Shin or had a fit personal interaction with him?
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite experiences was we're working up in Trenton, New Jersey, and having staff meetings every Tuesday with Master Godwin down in Delaware. Philadelphia is right in the middle, and what I didn't know at the time was Master Roman typically would stop at the headquarters often to pick up materials, drop off things between for Master Godwin and for the students up there and stuff. And I think I rode with him one time. We carpooled down to a meeting, and we went. It was like my first time ever going to the world headquarters, and we go in and we're talking to the people in the one office, and then we go into Maggie Gonski's office, and we're sitting there talking to her, and I'm not even like paying attention, and that they're talking, and I'm just looking around, and all of a sudden I turn, there's a big window, and Grandmaster Shin's just sitting at his desk, and I was like, he's right there, like he's right there, like he's right there. It was just a kind of surreal moment where I was like, there's Grandmaster Shin, he's just right there, and I said something to Master Roman before we left, and he was like, oh, let's just go say hi. I was like, you can do that? Well, I didn't know that that would open up a floodgate where every time I stop by, I'd be like, hey, I'm going to go talk to Grandmaster Shin. And, it was just really cool to be able to stop by and visit with him. And he'd always take a couple minutes to talk here or there. One of my first experiences with Grandmaster Shin was I went to this tournament, And I went up and met him. He was, signing people's medals, uniforms, things like that, meeting with people. And I stood in line and waited and talked to him. And I saw him at the end of the tournament. And, I went to say goodbye. And he said, like something nice. And he used my name. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Grandmaster Shin remembered my name. And it wasn't until years later as an instructor and watching my students go up and get their names signed on the uniform in Korean that I realized, like, he tricked us, right? My name was on the uniform, and it was just kind of a really funny experience. Like, it hit me years later, like, oh, he didn't really know my name. So, very smart, very smart. But yeah, that was my first experience with Grandmaster Shin. Remember my name, the very first time I met him. So
now, and some of the guys that I've talked to, they had to go when they were getting up for Masters Clinic. They had to go and have a meeting with Grandmaster Shin in Philly. Did you have to go to one of those meetings?
Because I stopped by and talked to him so often, I didn't have an official meeting with him. We'd always kind of talked a little bit here or there, and I remember, he mentioned at one point about me not going to Masters Clinic, like because of my age, because I was a little younger. He said, you need another year before you can go. And that was a conversation that was like, it would have been hard, I guess, maybe to hear that, but coming from him, he had his reasons, stuff, and it was really, it was more impactful to kind of understand how all that works, and talk to him about that. So that was the main meeting that I had, was you're not going to go. And then I went the year afterwards.
So if I remember correctly, you had a good gap between second and third degree, right?
So I had a little bit longer gap. It was the week. It was like Tuesday. I was supposed to test for my third degree on Saturday, right? We had a test on Saturday, and it was on the Tuesday. I was doing an obstacle course for my Tigers and Dragons class, and I went to go under this little obstacle. We'll get there, Mr. Watson. That's Watson. So I went to go under this tunnel thing to show the kids what to do, because I was always, it was fun for them to see, the adults do it. And as I went down, I'd already had surgery on my shoulder, but I ripped meniscus surgery, but I did something and it pulled, and I dislocated my shoulder, and I could not put my shoulder back in the socket. And so I went in the office. I called you over and had you take over for the kids, pretending like nothing was wrong. And I went in the office and talked to Master Mibroda, and he's trying to stop me, and I'm trying to ram my shoulder into the wall to put it back in socket because everything is just out. And he's telling me not to. And so he went and took over, and you drove me to where my mom was, and so I could go to the hospital, have it put back in place. I had it was out for so long that the muscles like atrophied. It took 6 months for my nerves to come back. So I probably would have been able to test. However, they scheduled a surgery for 6 months later. So then I had to wait another 6 months from the surgery and recovery from that before I could test again. So it took me an extra year to get to third degree because of that. And that's always a fun story to tell. I've had problems with my shoulders ever since. Actually, at my very first master's test, I did a hip throw on Master Soon, and it would have been a perfect throw, except halfway through, I dislocated my shoulder. And so threw him on the ground, and to this day, he tells the story all the time about it. He's never been thrown that high and hit the ground so hard, and he probably would not have hit the ground so hard if my arm had been. That's always a fun experience.
Oh man, it's funny. I obviously remember that story. I didn't connect that it was actually because of that you had to wait for your testing. Because I remember that you just had like a crash mat or a mat that was teepee, and you went under, and I remember that. And then you tried to do like the Lethal Weapon, like smash your.
I'd seen it in the movie. It worked in the movie.
Oh, that's hilarious.
On TV, you have to believe it.
Yeah, exactly. Yoshi Oda just messaged, what was your master's thesis on? Or at least your first one?
My first master's thesis was on the the development of humans through the different stages of development and the milestones that they hit, physical, social, and psychological changes in milestones development, and specifically how martial arts improves confidence in all age groups, because different age groups have different confidence issues. Like small children are nervous about doing an experience that they've never done before. Older kids, young teenagers typically are more nervous about, have confidence issues with performing something they think they're not going to be good at. And maybe those same things apply, but it's just like the different milestones that people hit. So it was split up into different chapters, and there was a chapter on young groups and how our Tigers and Dragons program, the expectations, the standards, and the curriculum that we were teaching at the time directly mirrored the development of children, like how they can only focus on one thing. So our Tigers and Dragons forms, you stay in one stance. You don't have to worry about anything other than, your hands. And because those children literally typically have the mental capabilities to focus on two things at once. And so we focus on one thing, right? And then we do something else. And then you slowly combine and work up. Then we have the basic forms where, it's 1 foot, 1 step, right? You don't have to do two things at once. And so the curriculum developed by Grandmaster Shin, the programs and systems that we used through Master Godwin, all literally like directly mirror kind of the development of people. And you can kind of start at any stage and get out of it what you want. So, but yeah, I had young kids, I had older kids, I had teenagers, young adults, and senior adults. So each chapter was a different, thing, and how what we do at the studios and the expectations and standards we have helps develop confidence in each of those groups.
Yeah, honestly, it takes a different skill set for each group of people when you teach. Some people just aren't wired to teach 4 and 5 and 6 year olds. So it's interesting being able to teach 4 classes and have 4 different age groups and have to teach every single one of them differently.
Exactly. And one of the things that I think is really important as an instructor to have is the ability to teach where people need it, right? And to be able to assess as quickly as possible, instantly if possible, where people are, and teach to that, even in the same class, right? We'd have 2 people next to each other. It's not have a different standard for each of them, but some students learn audio, auditorily, visually, and kinesthetically. And so the things that I do, simple things. And so that was another part of my thesis, was like, when we're teaching, to do things. So like, I'll tap my leg, say, ever tap your right leg, tap your leg. And so, they see it, they hear it, and if they follow and touch, it's a kinesthetic thing. And this is the leg I want you to move. And, every one of those 3 things is going to be great for each of those kids. So, we want to try to hit all 3 of those things as much as possible.
Right.
So people learn differently.
So we mentioned going to, open up Church's Karate Academy. And when did you actually open? Was it 2013?
2013. I moved here in April 9th of 2013. And my studio, I was officially allowed to move into my building on October 7th of 2013. So my anniversary, what I consider my anniversary for the karate school, is October 7th. We didn't actually start running full live classes until the very first day of November. I think it's November 3rd or something. But I consider my anniversary of the studio to be October 7th. But that's when I finally could come in. I got the mats in and the mirrors in within that first week, and I took the things out of the window that were covering up the construction. And even though it wasn't fully done in here, I was able to, start letting people come in and doing small, like, private lessons, introductory lessons with people and stuff. So we had some lessons. We just didn't have official group classes until a couple weeks after.
So being in Louisiana, you're part of, I always get this wrong. Is it Region 6?
Region 6, yes.
Yeah, Region 6. Okay. Talk about the opportunity to get to work with the people, the awesome people in Region 6.
Sure. Yeah, I came down here from Region 8, and Region 8 is a different animal. I mean, most people, especially from Region 8, but kind of until you spend some time in different things, it's just Region 8 is so big, and everybody's, close. I mean, so many people in martial arts because of Region 8. But down here, it's a smaller region, and what I really love about it is that we have the opportunity to get even closer. Me, like I said before, the reason I went to tournaments, kept going to tournaments and persevered through that wasn't because I thought eventually I could win. It's because of the experience. All the other events we have, I just love being around karate people. I want to be at the karate school to be around the community of people. And down here in Region 6, it's cool because, I know personally, every single master, every single black belt, almost every single black belt, I've had experiences teaching them at different events and getting to know them and everything. So it's really a close-knit community. People take it easy down here, right? They've taught me to move a little slower and take a little more care. I'm from up north, and I talk fast and move fast. I like to get things, going really fast, and it's kind of cool to take the time and get to know people and have those experiences. The people down here are just kind and generous and really giving. They were welcoming from the first moment I came down, and it's been great.
That's great. It's kind of hard to slow down when you're used to taking class with Master Godwin, and he'll tell you beforehand that he's going to teach 60 different things, and if something sticks, great. If not,
Yeah. I've had people, so many people, right, in my own studio in the region be like, I don't understand what you said, right? Can you slow down? And so I had to purposely slow down, because I talk fast for a northerner typically. So
I looked it up. You actually have a couple of studios that are fairly close to you in Louisiana. Do you get the opportunity to train with any of the World Tong Sudo people in your area?
Well, the three closest studios I have now are Homa, Baton Rouge, and Poplarville, Mississippi. They're all probably an hour to an hour and a half away. We don't get a lot of opportunities because they're teaching martial arts at the same time as I am. And different things like that. With me running the camps all the time, being busy during the day, and their jobs and careers. It gets really hard. We get together at our events. We typically run, other than this year during COVID, we typically run an event in February. We run a tournament in April and black belt test. We have black belt camp in June. September we have a tournament and a black belt test, and then we have another training event in November. And so we get together about 5 or 6 times a year, and we get we'll try as hard as possible to schedule time before or after one of those events for a training and an experience. And we have the benefit, Grandmaster Strong, being from this region, he's able to come to a majority of the events, and so it's always been really great, learning from him and having us leading those trainings. So
Yeah, what's it been like getting an opportunity to work with him more closely?
Oh, it's great. I mean, my very first experience with Grandmaster Strong, he was Master Strong at the time. My first year, I made it to the candidates training probably about 10 minutes before I was supposed to, because my flight got in. We had to wait for a late flight and all the travel from the airport and everything. So I was like 10 minutes away. And the next year, my second year as a candidate, I decided I didn't want that experience. So I and Laura Myers, we traveled together, and we went a day early to Master's Clinic. And so we're sitting there, and I was like, O'Neill, we wanted something to eat. So we asked Reverend Strong's wife, Rachel Strong, where the closest place we could just walk and go eat. And he happened to be walking by, overheard us. It's like, no, get in the car. And so he drove us to a place to go get some food. And it was really cool. And then that same year at the World Championships, I was walking by, and it was really cool that he remembered exactly who I was, and everything stopped to had a conversation with him. And that was before I had anything to do with this region. So I already had I was like, man, this guy is so awesome. And then when we moved down, and he's promoted to Grandmaster and everything, it was just a really cool experience. So he's been doing martial arts for a long time. He's really great. yeah, he just likes to be involved, and you know, really appreciate that about him.
It's great. Um, Brian Burkett sent a message. He's like, I would love to hear Master Jason Church's tips and insights on the deadly art of the photobomb. he's quite skilled at it, and I must learn the way.
So I am possibly known down here in this region as being the master of photobombing as well. So I'm a master in, Tongsudo, and a master of photobombing. Everybody loves, right, to get their studios together at the end of events. And for the longest time, we would come to these blue belt and black belt trainings for the first 3 years of being down here. I didn't have any blue belts or black belts. Even tournaments, I'd have a handful or no students, willing to compete. And so I've missed one event since I've been down here in Region 6. I've missed one event that I had to think for it. And I'm at all these events with nothing to do. Everybody's taking pictures. So I want to be involved. And so I just start photobombing. I even photobomb people at the World Championships too, which is always a fun experience. But I've started a group of people who have started photobombing as well. Now I get photobombed. There's a picture on Facebook where every time I try to get a picture with one of my friends, Master Giselle Sharp, Master Mary Jansa, we're all, I've like gone a picture, and next thing I know, there's 16 people behind me trying to photobomb. So now I can't get pictures with my group without at least 15 or 20 people jumping into the picture. So it's karma comes around,
That's right.
But the best thing I can tell you is duck low and jump up at the last second. It's all about timing.
You mentioned Master G, Mr. Master Sharp is he's good for that, and he's good for the take a couple pictures of himself while taking a picture.
But this is what I was gonna say. So I have we've moved on. People thought that they could get one over on me when I started photobombing. They say, Master Church, do you mind taking our picture? And so I'm like, okay, and I flip it around and take a couple selfies. So at least I get in their picture roll. So people thought they could outsmart me by asking me to take the picture, so I could not photobomb. And it's been a good experience. I am so skilled. I have to say this. I am so skilled at photobombing. I photobombed a picture I was supposed to be in at one point. So
that's quite impressive.
Yeah.
Nice.
Takes one more thing. I have a plan, right? You can't tell anybody. It's between you and me. I have a plan to get my face put on one of those like cardboard things with the stick.
Yeah.
So I basically make a mask of Master Church, and having my students go photobomb for me with my face. So, but don't tell anybody. That's my next plan.
That's brilliant. When you get them made, send them my way, and I'll just stick you.
I will photobomb from many regions.
That's right. It'll be you see how many. It's like you'll be the Where's Waldo, Where's Master Church of World Tongsudo.
That's actually what Grandmaster Strong calls me down in this region, is Where's Waldo.
Nice. That's great. So we talked about tournaments, and you mentioned that in those beginning times down at Church's Karate Academy, you didn't have a lot of students. What's it feel like now to actually have students of your own? You've trained for a long time and taught for a long time, and it's different though when they have your name on their back, right?
Absolutely. Being with Master Godwin, and being there for years at the Newark studio, and then being up in Trenton for 5 years, there were people who I trained from white belt and got black belt. And it was always like, a source of pride, and, oh man, like I helped along this journey for them. But yeah, no, it's a completely different feeling when you go to these events and you see your logo, right, on people's uniforms. It's a really cool experience. And now that we, my studio has gotten bigger. Pre-COVID, I had more people. I was up to about 130 students. We dropped down to about 65 during COVID, but we're back up to about 90, and we're on track to kind of spring back to where we were. A lot of people are coming back, and then new people are starting. So, but yeah, no, it's a really cool experience to see the kids grow, right? Again, adults too, but especially the kids, when you have them from when they're really, really young. I have kids who are not black belts yet, but they started when they were 4. I've had people who have still been with me for 6 or 7 years. And I actually have two boys who I have a picture of them when they were a dragon, I think maybe even a tiger, like brown belt. And we take pictures in front of my logo and stuff. And there's a picture of each of they're 2 best friends. They started training together. They're still training, and they were both like punching or kicking at me, and I was like, oh, like this. And I just found that picture recently, and they just tested for their black belt. And they started when they were 4, and now they're bigger, still best friends, still here. Train together, practice together, and it's going to be fun to recreate that picture as them as black belts. Stuff like that. So.
Yeah, that's always cool. The one that I have is Brandon Downs. Brandon Downs is, he started as a tiger. Now he's like 6'4".
Oh, 6? No, I thought it was 8. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's super cool to see that journey and see kids go from tigers. We had a couple in this last cycle go from tiger all the way up to black belt, and it's great to see that journey and to see that journey to continue. And I point to people like yourself and Master Setianto, Master Brown, who started as kids and continued up through the ranks. What do you attribute that to? You found your group of people that you wanted to be around, and you just couldn't see yourself anywhere else, or what do you think?
Well, I mean, I just loved karate, right? And everything. And I really wanted to do it. Given the opportunity, to start teaching really is probably the reason why I even stayed in martial arts in the first place. As anybody who knew me back when I started will tell you, I was not, physically gifted or anything. I was probably one of the worst people in martial arts. I know for a fact I can do the splits and everything now and still. But when I first started karate, I could barely bend my knees, right? I didn't have strength. I was very uncoordinated. My mom put me in martial arts for, confidence, but also fitness and that. And so I really took that to heart. My younger brother, could do splits, and he used to do splits. He used to do splits on the door frame, and weirdly, as weird as it sounds, jump off the chairs into the splits and things like that. And it's just ridiculous. But and I being competitive, I was like, I want to do that. It's that continuous growth and knowing that there's always something more, there's something better that you can learn. But really that was instilled in me, through all my instructors. But Master McBroda was one of my, even though I had instructors before him and things, he's obviously been the most impactful teacher, aside from Master Godwin, he really instilled that continuous growth. Like, I know he told a couple stories the other day, or a week ago or so when you did his meeting about, doing 1,000 kicks a day and just working towards that goal. And knowing that was there. I mean, I knew I wanted to do karate forever, instantly. I knew when I started teaching, like, this is what I want to do. I want to teach. I actually have it written in my 8th grade yearbook. I found my 8th grade yearbook a month or two ago, and I was just flipping through it and filled out my wish list for the future. And one of them says, be a karate instructor, right? In 8th grade. So, at least by 8th grade, I knew that was what I was going to be. And, but yeah, I think that, he really pushed me to, actually have my potential and be better. Sometimes pretty, emphatically,
Yes, whether you wanted him to or not.
Yeah, he mentioned, how in his house there's always random punches and kicks and fighting going. I'm well aware of how it is to be randomly punched or kicked via him. So really trained my reflexes.
Well, let's talk real quick. We're actually right at the hour mark, but let's talk about family. So you do have a daughter. Does Kai still train?
Yeah, my daughter, she started karate when she was 2 3/4, right? She was 3 months away from being 3. And at the time, I didn't even teach 3-year-olds. I started at 4. For a short period of time, I had a 3-year-old, 5-year-old program. but she grew up at the Newark studio. I mean, she would we'd put music on. She'd watch kickboxing, karate classes and stuff, and you know, in her you know, seat and stuff like that. And she was always around. And I couldn't stop her from doing martial arts. She'd go in the back of the room. There's a corner that's like we don't really use. There's like a dot there that whatever. And she claimed that as her dot. And every class, no matter what class I taught, beginners, intermediate, advanced, she'd stand there and she'd do her own thing and she'd stay in the back. And you know, she Century came out with quadruple size zero uniform. So I got one just to see how small it was, and see if it would fit her. It fit her perfectly. And then she's like, I can do karate for real now. And I was like, yes. And so I started her when she was 2 3/4, and she's a blue belt now. She's a Chodan belt, and you know, hopefully next year or so she'll be tested for black belt.
How old is she?
She's 9.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
As Avery.
Yeah, I slowed her up a little bit, you know, here and there, just because of, you know, her age and stuff. And she's gone through periods of time, you know, being at the karate school. I mean, she's with me 24/7. Well, was with me 24/7, but so she went to school. You know, I pick her up from school. We come do karate every single night. I teach karate 6 days a week and have karate events. She travels with me to all these events and stuff. You know, so there's sometimes where she gets a little burnout. I don't want to make her do it, but I do make her do it. But there's certain times where I just let her slow up for a little bit because there's no rush, right? She's been doing karate for 7 years, you know, 7 years now, or 6.5 years now. So what's the rush?
Right.
I don't want to make her hate it.
Sure.
She says she does every once in a while.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat. Like I said, I have a 9-year-old, and it's like, you got to wait. you don't have a choice.
But now she's really into it. You know, it's so cool. It's so cool sometimes to like, she'll ask me, she's like, hey, can I teach? And I'm like, actually, yeah, you know, because she probably knows more karate. I mean, I know she's 9, but she knows just as much karate as, you know, anybody else who's been there. And so she likes to, you know, take a white belt or something and help teach them. And it's just kind of cool to see that. When she was like 3 or 4 years old, I hear her talking in the back seat one day, and I was like listening to what she was saying, and she was doing a mock info call. She actually was asking if the karate was for them or for someone else, and all the same exact things that I say. And I was like, oh my God, like she could start answering the phones for me. Right? She's like, I have time available tomorrow or Saturday. What day is good for you? And I was like, that's exactly what I say on the phone.
Oh, that's amazing. That's fantastic.
So one day she'll be Church's Karate Academy for her. So
that's right. That's awesome. Hey, so we're gonna wrap up. We're at a little over an hour. Thanks for joining me. Is there anything else you want to touch on or finish up with?
No, I think I'm good. It was great talking to you. It was great catching up. And like I said to everybody out there, you know, New Orleans is a great place to visit at some point. And you're always welcome to come out and train.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Jason. It was great to catch up and talk to you. And, you know, like you said, hopefully we'll get a chance to hang out in person sooner than later.
All right, great.
All right. Thanks, Jason. Talk soon.